Got you with the thumbnail, didn't I? For reference, I was looking up images of pregnant characters from zombie media, and this popped up, and I could not stop laughing. Someone on DeviantArt really wanted Ellie to be pregnant. So, there you go, that's the reasoning. There's nothing more to it. Surviving day to day is already kind of a roller coaster these days, but factoring in that of a zombie apocalypse where survival comes down to the nitty-gritty is a whole nother beast of its own that a lot of people think they can easily tackle, or in the very least, say they are prepared for. You know what's cool to do day to day, but not in the middle of the zombie apocalypse, or at the very least, when it's all starting? The P word. And no, we're not talking about procrastination or partying, proletariat, or even pistachios. No, we talking pregnant. If you've watched my channel over the past decade, you will know my biggest annoyance with people turned survivors against the undead is popping a bun in the oven for 9 months. With everything that it entails during and especially at the end, and even more so after, there are a ton of problems that come along with the territory. For every one good thing that can come from it, you can name tons of other things that offset it. But let's get into the details of many franchises that have explored this and discuss why you should stop being pregnant in zombie apocalypses. Pregnancy can be expensive, but video games don't have to be thanks to today's sponsor, Aniba, a gaming marketplace home to over 40,000 digital products across all gaming platforms from PC to PlayStation to Xbox to even Nintendo. Get big zombie games like Dying Light for as low as $4.38 or even Back 4 Blood for 48 cents? Sheesh! Save the big bucks and get an extra 9% off on games, gift card subscriptions, DLCs, and game points with code GETTINGHOT starting June 19th at 10 a.m. until June 22nd at 12 p.m. CET time, and see the code RETURN June 26th at 10 a.m. until June 29th at 12 p.m. Check it out for yourself. You can even get cashback rewards on some of the stuff you purchase, so it pays to play. With an excellent Trustpilot score and 24/7 live support on all purchases, Aniba is fast, secure, and reliable. Check it out now by clicking my link in the description and pinned comment below and save some cash on the games you've been wanting to try right now at Aniba.com. Now, before we continue, I can already hear you clickety-clacking on your keyboard or furiously tapping on your phone. I'm gonna stop you right there. You're gonna interject into this one saying something along the lines of one of these kinds of comments. Here's the first one. You have to raise a baby in that hell, which makes your life harder. But otherwise, we let the human race die out if nobody makes babies. That's how the zombies win. Not by eating everyone, but by keeping us too scared to come back. Or, how about this one? You need babies and children to keep the settlement going. In fact, after a few weeks in a settlement, we should see mass impregnations. In fact, considering people are horny, the psychological push to breed in dangerous situations like zombie apocalypses and how things like birth control and condoms are hard to come by, we should actually see more pregnant women in a zombie apocalypse. Not to mention great blackmail, trading sex for favors, and resources, etc. Now, don't take this as me bullying them or harping on them. I'm just bringing up their comments because it's healthy to have this kind of mindset. That second one, there's some stuff in there I would kind of stray away from, but it's natural to take into consideration the notion of procreation. It is the natural human condition. We seek to fulfill a few goals as sentient beings. Eat, drink, sleep, and wow. You need babies to continue mankind. No doy. Everyone knows that, unless you think the stork brings them by. Zombie media is all about using the zombies and the world they created to deliver all types of messages and narratives on the human condition. George A. Romero was about mindless consumerism. The Walking Dead, that people are the real monsters. Army of the Dead, who are the true monsters? Then Dawn of the Dead 2004, a lot of cool action scenes. Usually when it comes down to making babies during or in a zombie apocalypse, narratively and symbolically, it's a simple element of creating the theme of hope in a doomed world. New life in the midst of a chasm of death. It's the timeless classic of the whole yin-yang thing. Black and white, life and death, political grifters, and basic human morals. But nothing represents life more than birth, right? Yes, humanity is gonna need to procreate since our numbers are whittling down at a fantastic speed with the zombies out there. Because without making more people, we are destined to disappear as an entire species. That's natural to have dwelling in the back or even forefront of your mind. It's built into our DNA. As Kanye West once said,
"It's in my code. It's in my code."
When we see a guy and girl together in narrative, that's due grounds for thinking of making babies. If not, it's like Nick always says when Rochelle dies in Left 4 Dead 2.
There goes repopulating the earth.
But there is a whole litany of other things that need to be taken into consideration before going down the road of maternal bonding. Most important is ensuring being pregnant can work out long term, both in terms of one's own health and diet, but also day-to-day safety and considering liability and needed downtime while being in that state of being, because there is all that comes with being pregnant in the span of around 9 months. 9 months in whatever version of an undead cannibal outbreak that is going to be hellish, all while you have these defining factors. Being pregnant comes with the possibilities of ailments such as gestational diabetes, preeclampsia, hyperemesis gravidarum, which can lead to dehydration, the swelling of legs and ankles due to fluid retention, higher chances of anemia due to blood volume increasing, all things that can cause complications in even ideal settings that would suck even worse during a zombie apocalypse, and some of which that can be deadly without proper medical care. Why would you chance it? You are just amplifying all these symptoms and making it to where you cannot defend yourself or run away properly. You're going to need proper nutrition, medical care, and having to consistently manage everything you need while gestating a crotch goblin. Yeah, some guy in the comments is going to chime in with, well, women did it before all these modern amenities. We can go back to the old ways. Yeah, except the fact that the mortality rates of women and infants back then were dog shit, and do not factor in a lawless, desolate wasteland, and we're not counting the Wild Wild West unless you're thinking of Undead Nightmare, where you're going to have rotting cannibals and the weirdo living people remaining while you're trying to pop one out, hoping neither of these types of entities come knocking at the front door in all that time. And then there is the end goal of childbirth, preceded by what is basically indefinite childcare for months and years after. The second that critter pops out, you're gonna need to keep it properly fed, and don't expect some baby formula to be on the constant upkeep. Gonna need to nurse it, but that requires the mom to have proper nutrition. Otherwise, the milk might not come in or she might not produce enough for the baby. And in that time, from birth to just about every waking moment, we'll have that spawn crying loudly enough to attract unwanted attention your way. They will be secreting bodily fluids pretty consistently that will require cleaning them frequently. Otherwise, buildup of poop, pee, vomit, and more will cause rashes and or infections. So, minus the biohazards, the noise pollution, and increased need of feeding the mother and it, you'll still need to look out over time and hope the zombies don't get a baby male. As a baby grows into infants and toddlers, their curiosity will make things so much more difficult as they try to touch and mess with everything, sticking things in their mouths that could easily infect them or give them a disease that might not be able to be treated. Some like to hide themselves as a game to where they could literally get eaten alive or be kidnapped, and then have a search party looking for them that could also cause casualties. Basically, think of it as a drunk mini frat guy hanging out with your survival crew, constantly causing trouble. It takes a long time to grow out of these phases, and even then, kids can be pretty stupid, even if growing up in a zombie-filled world, and that will take years before they become capable enough to do anything except be another mouth to feed. Okay, straight to the point. Being a dude, I had no idea the sheer amount of innate BS that Mother Nature throws at women while being pregnant. Sure, I had some context, but had basically read the foreword on the first book of the 7-part novel series, so all that information came from my girlfriend, Tyrannosaurus Rex. I asked her what it was like, what comes with being pregnant, and if it's a good idea to do during an outbreak or in the post-apocalypse. What do you think, babe? It's all of these tiny but expansive details that can build up quickly. So much can go wrong or interact with your anatomy and pre-existing conditions, and it will basically be necessary long into the apocalypse, or post-apocalypse if we want to be verbally technical, that getting a bun in the oven basically mandates needing to have an extremely well-established safe haven with loads of time after the initial pandemic. Everything we have discussed is crucial information, and all that can happen to tack on to surviving the dead and living, and the basic elements of survival to live. It's easy to say to just wait until a definitive safe haven is established with proper walls, water, food, defenses, and medicine, but that's just not the case for, well, let's face it, a lot of people. Some people will see the end of days and just start banging like rabbits. Plan B, be damned. So once that little white swimmer enters the egg, well, it's just gonna make things harder with all the zombies out there. So let's dive further into why it's a bad idea. Spoilers, it's a hell of a liability. Now, there is something that can't be avoided, and it's being pregnant in any capacity before the zombies appear. The news breaks that the dead are coming back to life, and you've already got that human basketball tucked under your belly. You just gotta get up and go, no matter the state of pregnancy, to haul ass on her toes, no matter how inflated they may be, as was the case for Luda in Dawn of the Dead 2004. Just universally poorly timed when, in her last month before giving birth, the apocalypse hit with a force, forcing her to evacuate with her husband and find refuge with others at the Crossroads Mall, only to be scratched by an infected security guard. Her husband, Andre, unable to deal with the idea of losing her and their baby, hides the fact that she is infected, restrains her, and attempts to keep her alive so she can bring their child to the world. The preceding scene of the old woman Norma seeing them together in this state caused multiple deaths and the sight of an undead baby. While it is innate to protect an expectant mother, it does cause problems down the road when it comes to overall safety if such incidents of someone like her getting infected with the zombie virus. But that's the case for any living person fearing death, hiding a bite or scratch to ignore the inevitable. Dealing with being pregnant at the start is up there for some of the worst situations you can be in physically. It just makes the chaos of everyone fending for themselves, panicking to find safety and supplies, and dealing with living and dead alike so much harder with a passenger inside your body messing with your mind, body, and soul. The drastic emotional state exacerbated by maternal hormones could reveal your location when trying to discreetly avoid the dead. What do I mean by that? Well, as an example, Luda, when she saw a zombie with an arm off, decided to screech like a seagull. It could cause you to make situations worse, or better yet, make bad situations happen. And she probably wasn't even thinking of it, she just reacted. And hey, your condition may have people thinking differently of you. Not that you are with child, but with disease. People may see you dealing with symptoms like nausea, vomiting, sweating, mood swings, and more, and deem that, you gotta be infected and could turn at any moment, especially if you are not visibly showing in the estomacal area yet. Again, reeling with these symptoms you really can't avoid if you're already knocked up, but it's just part of the newfound territory. People are going to make assumptions because there is a whole new safety system in play. You may get lucky at the start while being pregnant and just have a giga-chad husband and tons of good people to get you to safety, like that of Song Kyung in Train to Busan, who eagerly awaited her child with Sang-hwa, using her status as an expectant mother to give the best tearjerker moment when her husband sacrifices himself for her as she continues to live on. Not much to say here on the aspect of this character, but worth mentioning regardless, as it didn't bog her down with the amount of support she got, and it was a pretty straightforward story. There was no long-term stuff, and she started that way. Then there's times where the zombietism kicks in while you are pregnant without warning, such as when the human EMP nuke went off in We Bury the Dead, killing Riley's pregante wife and having him obsess over bringing her back over what is deemed a cause to reanimate as unfinished business within a person's mind. Again, not his or anyone's fault except the US government, but it still spurred him to wildly chase a goose for ages just for him to die to his own obsession. That and the pergert wife came back anyways and gave birth. So, woo, a zombaby. Which is a whole nother can of worms. Zombies being pregnant. Dawn of the Dead had its pre-pregnant mom give birth to a zombaby that hysterically got blasted the second it made a peep. Rise of the Zombies stomped a turn zombie baby from a pre-pregnant infected mom. And sure as hell, Zack Snyder thought he hit cinematic gold in Army of the Dead when he had his Pergonat zombie queen die to reveal a blue zombaby fetus from the Zombie King. And then the opposite end of the intended seriousness spectrum with a turned zombaby at the beginning of Z Nation, and then a zombie-human hybrid way down the line in the exact same series. But it's less about the babies in this video, and again about creating one, developing one by being pregnant, and popping a normal one out to this world that really matters in terms of survival, what it means for you as a person and those around you. But yeah, if you got babies acting like this, or this, do not hesitate to negate the paternal instinct inside your mind and just Now, if you do see a pregnant mom keel over from zombie attacks, don't go carving her open immediately like a pumpkin to rescue the fetus inside, with the only wonder in that wonder ball being a less than kinder surprise. But wanting to make a person clean of zombie tendencies is gonna be ill-advised for quite a while. Getting pregnant when you know the dead have risen and or what they are bringing to the table is when I start to enter the, is ya crazy or is you just plain stupid? I heard that a lot from my dad growing up. Well, not the pregnant part, just the crazy and stupid remark. But just wait to get busy. You don't gotta rush in, man. Get your bearings, learn exactly what is going on, know what resources you will have, if you're even going to be able to keep yourselves and those around you fed, healthy, and safe. But no, let's add more pressure to the already high tension everyone is experiencing. Don't get knocked up in the first few days of the outbreak like Lori Grimes did in The Walking Dead. Girl was told her husband was dead by her best friend, so she let the Punisher bang. Girl folded quicker than your coach at a burger tank. Even if Rick didn't come back, you still let this guy complete inside you, girl. You still risk getting pregnant while barely looking after your current child, Coral. Glenn at least had the sense to go and grab condoms when thinking of banging Maggie, which ironically Glenn did end up getting Maggie pregnant, but that was ages later when they had the Hilltop settlement. Lori just let Shane crack his best friend's woman and then starts dealing with morning sickness, ailments, and further down the line, more and more what comes with the territory. Also, to add the drama of the Jerry Springer element of who's the real daddy to the mix and basically causing Shane to go nuts over her and the baby. But that's just writing for a zombie drama show. I doubt people would actually be like that. Yeah, they would. People are stupid. Jesus Christ. But it was blatantly obvious she was designed just to be a pregat chick designed to add drama to the comics and show and destined to die for emotional effect. The moment they get to a prison to lock it down, she dies and her son is left to scoop the baby out like some rocky road. Her physical situation not helping in procuring the compound and ultimately going into labor is what got her killed from blood loss. And let's not forget that time she flipped a car purely based on emotional strife thinking about Shane and all the others on an open road when there was nothing there to hit, all because she banged Shane. Just know you can avoid wetting the willy. To an extent, I want to lump in something else. I'm gonna talk about the mom from A Quiet Place. Yes, that is not a zombie apocalypse setting in any way, but an apocalyptic one nonetheless. Who saw her kid in the very beginning get snatched up by a death angel after her dumbass kid started making noise with the toy, and then, not long after, decides to get pregnant to replace him. In a world where you cannot make noise, you decide, yeah, let's another one out and have it screaming all the way. Perfectly easy to give birth without making any noise at all, right ladies? The main reason I bring up A Quiet Place specifically is to emphasize how getting pregnant is such a liability in the long term. Having to add so many extra steps to day-to-day survival is just insane. Trying your best to create a new life, not considering everything needed to make that life walk on its own, 9 months of gestation, and over a decade of being a dumbass infant, then toddler, then child. It just makes yours and everyone else's survival harder for just a chance at making a new life. There is just so much to it. You're gonna have to just progress and try to see how the world is going to keep moving on. Even if you do make a child, it's not gonna really matter. You have to make sure you can survive, otherwise everyone is gonna die in the process. I'm sure some will still come in here saying, well, maybe safe havens are a distant and unachievable goal. Procreation will still need to happen, and it's worth the risk to get pregnant. I wouldn't say so though. The loading time for a fully functional and non-liability life form in your midst just has way too much baggage. And when it comes to the emotional, psychological, and physical baggage, there is one series that loves pregnant women mixed up in the dead, and that is Telltale's The Walking Dead. Jane was basically a survivalist loner that was well suited for the zombie apocalypse. apocalypse, barely opening up to others and being extremely resourceful, masterful at dispatching walkers and very focused on surviving no matter the cost, willing to leave others for dead and label other pregnant women as liabilities. Anything that could drag her down, she will most likely abandon, which makes it all the more mind-boggling that she ends up shacking up with Luke. The story definitely wants to focus on the whole "don't let your guard down" thing, but after focusing on how pregnancy is a detriment with others, she just lets the hormones and loneliness win. Dangerous combination for many people, I know. But she eventually starts feeling the symptoms and gets a test to find out that, yep, she is pregnant. So her next course of action is to go hang out. Oof. Couldn't handle a positive result on the pregnancy test and took the quick way out, abandoning the one girl that took her side in Clementine. It's kinda real though. Some people would not be able to handle seeing this in a zombie-filled world. It's too much pressure, too many variables in the head that all lead to a brutal death for you, or worse, getting attached to the infant inside and watching it either miscarry or giving birth to die, or even watching something you raise being eaten alive because it wouldn't stop crying. Jane viewed herself as a liability, and as her life dictated was to get rid of any liabilities. A sad reality. But zombie apocalypses aren't permanent zombie land excursions. It's gonna be that way. There was one woman that she did know that was pregnant for a majority of the time she knew her, and that was Rebecca. This is the case of someone that may or may not have elected to be pregnant so far in. Sometimes becoming pregnant is unavoidable in even safe havens. While the hardware store itself was far beyond safe for people like her, being raped by the tyrannical leader Carver, already having had unprotected sex with her husband Alvin even more recently, she did become pregnant and even escape Carver's base while heavily dealing with the baby inside, causing her to be more snappy and emotional. Although the reality of seeing friends die to reanimated survivors her group were trying to help, and the messed up shit that Carver put her through and her husband through, it's easy to see why she might have been that way. But being close to birth did not help those fears. During long treks, the pains of pregnancy cause her to stop the group so she can rest for a moment, leaving the group wide open for anything that may be near with their minuscule supplies. She gives birth in a cabin eventually to her son Alvin Jr., while hordes of zombies are clawing at the group, the sounds attracting them. Thankfully, the child did belong to her husband Alvin and not that of Carter's because, well, skin color kind of gave it away. Heavily weakened, though, from her postpartum state and walking for days after giving birth, her group is confronted by Russian survivors out in the cold wilderness. She is forced to lay low while her friends attempt to simmer down the dispute, having to keep moving all this time in bitter, snowy areas even after birth so soon, causes the toll of extreme physical exhaustion, hypothermia, overt mental stress, and heavy accumulated blood loss caused her to die days after. While there was the initial scare of having a rapist like Carver being the father, it was ultimately Alvin's son, and unanimously the reason she died. In a world like The Walking Dead, where dying in any way outside of head trauma means reanimation, it also could have meant that she would have turned and eaten the baby she fought so hard to bring to the world. What if she died while asleep next to the baby? While she would be shot, it could have happened, and the shot itself is what spurs a gunfight between the two survivor groups. All in all, just a whole mess spurred from this pregnancy, and just the idea of a pregnant mom dying, reanimating, and eating a baby, that's a whole nother can of worms. Now, there is the other end of the spectrum when it comes to Krista. Surviving with her boyfriend Omid, they encountered a situation in Crawford where any woman that was pregnant was forced to have an abortion to limit dwindling resources being used, where they were kicking out children under 14 or kicking pregnant women out of the community. So there's also that. So places just straight dooming you to roam the wasteland if you were pregnant and by yourself, forcing you to undergo a procedure that might not be the safest. If you're put through this abortion thing, you may die in the process as well. Krista would eventually become pregnant herself, but after losing Omid and a time skip, she would lose the child through undisclosed means, weighing on her conscience at the death of her husband and their child together, becoming a reminder of someone lost and some not able to come to terms with it, while others like Maggie and Michonne would continue on with their pregnancies and have children in the Walking Dead TV series to raise their babies, but this loops back to them having decent safe havens with ample provisions, defenses, medicine, and tons of people to trust. A luxury not a lot of the previously mentioned pregnant women had, especially when it came to Jane, Krista, and Rebecca. But even then, there are those that are pregnant and have everything they could possibly need during pregnancy within a safe haven and then decide, you know what, I'm gonna act like there's not something growing inside me. And those people are those like Mel in Last of Us 2, allowed and even encouraged to go out on reconnaissance to a forward operating base from a perfectly safe haven. Despite her stomach visually showing that she is a couple months or at least over halfway done with her pregnancy, they were like, you know what, you were trained as a medic with the Fireflies before and know a lot of good stuff. There's no other person that can go and do what you do. We need to send your pregnant ass. So go into potential enemy territory with the Seraphites out there. Surely being months and months pretnet will not get in your way of maneuvering city ruins, infected that can transmit their fungus through bites, scratches, or spores, or cult-like people ready to disembowel you. While yes, her skills are pretty necessary in that time and age, others in the community could easily be taught the same methods, or at least something in the months leading up to that. But ignore everything. Mel has got to be this badass young survivor with other badass young survivors ready to do what's necessary. And she's dead. Yeah, the whole point of Mel's character, and for half of the pregnant characters mentioned in zombie media in general, is for shock value. It just becomes repetitive or boils down to female characters to being, oops, well, I'm killed off the show, game or movie. That means I'm a double kill. Uh-oh. It just ends up feeling stupid to have them be there and go out into the zombie world and psycho-filled world while bogged down with the pregnancy. It feels like pregnancies are just there to just make you go, narrative themes be damned. Shows, movies, and games typically resort to either a mom giving birth to show light in the darkness that is the all-encompassing blackness of the world of the dead, or the mother dying during birth so that miraculously the child will be born, as was the case for both Lori and Rebecca. But up until that point, it was a lot more hassle than there needed to be, having much more of a liability on each and every survivor's group's hands because most of the time, a guy and girl couldn't either wear protection or just have good pull-out game. Then acting as if the state of pregnancy is a walk in the park, like it's an accessory, to be a badass with a big belly to bust around, or to be constantly needing breaks, attention, or time to rest to slow things down to a crawl, increasing supply necessities, urgent moments, and putting the issues of scarcity and zombie exposure more on the table. Yes, we are gonna need to make more human beings. I know, but get your shit together before doing so, both in a zombie apocalypse and in the real world, but more so when dead geeks are out there. Just punch yourself in the balls or hoo-ha if you're getting that sensation.
It's good for keeping down the urges.
Keep it in your pants to avoid the thriller dance. Some situations like already being pregnant at the beginning with some settlements banning children and being pregnant, situations with people like Carver that will sadly be extremely prevalent in a lawless society, or getting pregnant in a safe haven with everything you need only for it to be raided or overwhelmed by a zombie horde would be extenuating circumstances outside what I talk about today. Ultimately, the state of being pregnant is already too much to supplement into survival. Its medical attention needs tenfold. Its symptoms that people could label as zombie infection to outcast you or even put you down. Its fatigue, mood swings, temperaments, blood-related afflictions, swelling feet making walking long distances incredibly difficult or running from the dead an amplified affair, long periods without food or water leading to worsening symptoms, and more. Some other survivors won't care that you are in that state and would sooner kill you or do worse for it. As I said before, the benefit of another person and continuing the human race in whatever backwater, rundown, abandoned area you end up in probably will be extremely, undeniably, and wholeheartedly far outweighed by getting to survive and having enough supplies to see another month, week, or even day, let alone 9 months plus 10 plus years to develop a child into a productive member of host society, requiring basically gagging the baby, infants, toddlers so it doesn't make a peep, otherwise for the upteenth time, the dead and living alike will hone in on your location population, and while you're trying to defend it, you are going to be nerfed in some capacity. And keeping a baby alive might be harder than you think. Yeah, it could be a one-time biobomb distraction, but I wouldn't recommend it. Many of these elements just boil down to being out in the world, scraping by and struggling to survive, in which many that do get prego in the zombie apocalypprego will probably end up doing. Save the sex and marriage until after a community with a carriage. It's feasible. Just establish yourself and don't pull a male and girl boss your bouncing beach ball belly out into the world. Be reasonable and keep survivability of yourself and others at the forefront of your mind. You can make it work. You can be pregnant. Just don't do it ASAP and make sure you got everything you need eventually. But until then, stay happy, stay healthy, stay safe, donate to the channel through the Patreon, YouTube channel memberships, or during my live streams on my second channel, WSG Streams, to be featured on this super cool list that has already been going by, and most importantly, stay wow.